Let's advertise for the other channel.
Sorry. Hey, everybody, welcome. It's good to have you here. We're live. I think we've got everybody here.
Tell us we're live. Does anybody see us?
Do we need a thumbs up? Somebody can give us. I see Be Kind is there.
Good to see you. Good evening, Tracy. Where are you from? That it's evening. Which direction would that even be from? I don't know.
That's going to be over Europe area or beyond.
Okay. You see us. Sharon, thank you. Okay. Then
Sharon, can you hear us?
Yeah, the mics were no good last time. Hey, Vicky.
So you're in charge of all the comments. So you get to post them on the screen.
Okay. So here's the truth. No, I'm going to give it to you.
Oh, great.
I can't see the comments on the screen over here because my eyes are just that bad. So I'm looking at them over here. Or you know what? I'm just going to own it, lean in, and put on my glasses so I can actually see you guys. Okay, I'm excited to have you here. I am just going to tell you straight up, 3 o'clock is past my bedtime. I am not usually really very functional at this time of the day. So
it was. Thanks for coming, everybody. We appreciate it.
We'll see you next time. So Scott is going to carry me. That's what's going to happen. He's going to bring his enthusiasm, and it's fine.
We're excited. What we want to do today is answer some questions about homeschooling, and even specific questions if we can. Jen and I have been a homeschooling family and have been raised in homeschooling, both of us, most of our lives. So we have a little bit of experience, which means we've probably done it wrong before, and we can teach you how not to do it.
Every single way. We've tried them all.
Yes, it's awesome. Vicky, thank you very much. Thank you for being here. If you have any questions about your homeschool situation or what possibly could be a homeschool situation for you, we would love to be able to try to answer or give you our insight, or maybe point you in a direction where you may be able to find the answers you're looking for if we don't have it. So that's our goal today.
Okay, so before we get to that, the thumbnail on this is why we chose to homeschool and why we're still doing it today, why we did not quit. And it's actually, thank you. One of the things that I don't like about this is that you can see the ring light. See that? That's what's happening. You can see everything over there. Anyway, a lot of what happens with when people decide to homeschool, it's a traumatic thing that causes them to homeschool. And I see people kind of really being traumatized for at least the first year, feeling like this is so hard and I don't know how to do this. And maybe I'm fixing the thing that caused us to start, but it's so stressful in all these other areas. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about why it's worth it to stick with it, because all of those things that we start for stop being the reason that we keep going. So why do you guys want to start homeschooling, or are you homeschooling? Hey, I'm just going to throw out a couple that I've seen, but throw in the comments why you're considering homeschooling, or what brought you here. The pandemic. Oh my gosh, this is a whole other group. Okay, so I see that there are basically two different generations of homeschoolers, and the first one is I think of them as people who jump out of the plane, and then while they're falling, they're sort of knitting their parachute and hoping that it comes together before they get to the ground. That's us. Yeah. So it's people who do not know what they're doing at all, and they just hope that something comes together and it all works out. And then you have the second generation homeschoolers who know that first generation, and they watch them do it, and they say, oh, this works. I can see that this is an option. It functions. It's, their kids are normal and they're able to get a good education. It's a possible path to get their kids the education. And that generation is much more chill and calm and cool and collected. And then you have the third generation who did not have a choice. And those are the pandemic teachers, pandemic homeschoolers who, you guys, man, I feel
they got an email one week saying, "Hey, school's closed.
You're homeschooling.
Keep teaching your kids. Go."
Yeah.
And that's their introduction to homeschool, and the way they possibly never even consider it before.
Brutal. Just so bad, so hard. My heart goes out to everybody who was introduced to homeschooling through the pandemic, because you didn't choose it. At least with the other two, we chose it. Maybe we were traumatized into it, or maybe we were just kind of felt like maybe this is a good option. But okay, that is a traumatic reason too, that you feel like this is a really scary situation out there. I don't want my kids to be involved in. And so you're having to make this decision to avoid something bad. I was thinking about it because my daughter was getting bullied might try supplemental homeschooling over the summer. This is how I did it for years. I homeschooled in the summer for many years before I took the plunge. Train wreck, my thoughts gone.
Summertime homeschool?
No,
As
there's
far
something
as,
before that.
okay, we'll
Go ahead. Let's go with that. Let's go with that.
There are lots of reasons to start homeschooling, but no matter what reason brought you there, wherever you're at, there's a way forward, right? It doesn't end up. It just because it was a traumatic entrance doesn't mean it has to be a disaster when it moves forward. And your kids also, no matter where you were, they have a different experience coming to homeschool, right?
Mm-hmm.
You might have dragged them, as they're clawing their way back to public school, saying, "No, please don't take me from my friends."
You're so mean.
You might have someone who just don't want to get out of bed to go to school, and now you're trying to motivate them to get out of bed to go downstairs to the kitchen table. So they have different experiences as well,
Yeah.
and there are ways to handle all of it and address the issues and I wouldn't say problems, I would say challenges, because with everything you think that it might be a problem or presents itself as a problem in homeschooling, there's also an advantage. With children who might say, I can't get them to sit still to listen to the lesson type thing. You have someone who has a capability on the other side that maybe sitting still is not their learning style, but in another environment, they will excel beyond belief. And they don't have that opportunity in public school where you might be able to cater to that special need in homeschool. So there's a way forward, and we can try to answer questions. So if you have some specific questions about your kids, we'll answer those as we go along. Be Kind says, I had to go to homeschool online with my 4-year-old granddaughter in French. Bonjour, comment allez-vous? Je m'appelle recovery addict. That's all the French I know. Au revoir.
Yeah, wow, that's big. You win the wow, that was too hard challenge. Good job. Go ahead.
My Michelle says, homeschooling here for 25 years. 6 kids,
Good job.
2 graduated, 4 to go. This is our story.
Yeah.
My Michelle, I'm going to send you a link and you can join us live. We actually could do that.
We could, but you have to choose it. Like, we're not going to force you.
This is where we're at in our program. We have 6 children. The oldest 2 have graduated from high school. The next oldest is very close. He'll be graduating next year. And the oldest one is in college full time. The second oldest has got some college under his belt already and is doing a service mission right now. And we've got all the way down through grade school, basically.
Yep. And it's fun. So here's the thing. Even though we were kind of traumatized into starting, we stayed for completely different reasons. Once we were in it for a while, a lot of the things that I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be so bad. My kids are going to sleep in and I'm never going to be able to get them up on time. They became the things that I love the most about homeschooling. I'm like, would you look at this? My kids get enough sleep. They wake up refreshed. They wake up happy. How wonderful is that? And we're more in control of our morning routine. When we were in public school, it wasn't pretty. Our mornings, I was not nice and I didn't like myself and the kids didn't really like me. And every time I dropped them off at school, it was like, you're late and did you find your thing? And I'm sorry you didn't eat breakfast. And it was just this stress. And then they got out of the car and I thought, great, I'm not going to see them for the rest of the day. And that's all they're going to know about me. And by the time they saw me again, I was tired and stressed out because, as I mentioned, 3:00, I'm done. So
homeschool has the advantage of being flexible. And not just hours wise. We're not saying you should only teach them like for 30 minutes a day and then you're done type thing, but it has the flexibility to adjust to the needs of the family better than public school does, where you have to meet the public school schedule. But it also has the ability to adjust to the needs of the child, which, some children are not morning people. And if they go to school first thing in the morning and they're faced with math, as they're just fighting to just get started for the day, and they just can't get started. Every time they get started in the day, they do math because that's the schedule in public school. Guess how that child's going to do in math? He or she's going to start associating awful mornings, being dragged out of bed with math, and they're going to hate it. And then in a homeschool environment, you could say, guess what? We're going to do our physical activity stuff in the morning, and we're going to do a slow start to things. And once you're up and ready, then, once you're ready and awake and with it, then we can start introducing math, and it could be something fun.
Yep. Yeah. And actually, that is a really good point. A really good insight is that the hardest subject should come at the point in the day when people have the highest energy. Most people, that's in the morning. But I have one kid, his energy is much higher in the afternoon. So we had to move math to the afternoon for him because that's just when he
takes after me.
Not me.
That's why we start at 10 o'clock on my show. I need the break.
Andrea, oh man, Andrielle.
Yeah.
My BFF homeschools because her eldest is autistic and just didn't like how the public school is handling it. So this is big. Special needs are a real thing. It is something that I think the public school really tries their hardest on, but man, they're outnumbered and it's tough. They do have a lot of resources to work with that I feel like sometimes would be helpful, because when we find out that we have a kid who's autistic or dyslexic or any number of special needs, it's new for us. We don't know what we're doing. And so there's a really big learning curve there. Public school has the advantage in that area that the people who are coming to help, they've already had years to train and know this, but that's kind of where their advantage ends. So then you have the advantage after that you know your child, you care about your child, you're going to stick with it. So if you can find a way to blend those two, pick up on their knowledge and then use it going forward, that can be most helpful. And that's just really going to depend on your area, if they teach or if you have to go and find some knowledge somewhere else. And just really quickly, HECOA has a special needs conference every February, I think. That's HECOA. And that is just like all sorts of special needs. And if you have a kid who struggles in any way, check out that conference. They know much more than I do. The only thing we do with special needs is dyslexia. So I'm not an expert on that.
And I would say that every special needs child presents unique opportunities and challenges.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to have a one size fits all solution. And that's honestly, that's probably why it's difficult for the public school to address it, because it's hard to specialize for each child when there is a unique challenge that's presented.
Yeah.
So Weather Watch says, we struggled in the beginning, but there are so many resources that are extremely helpful. This is what parents need to know when they start homeschooling.
Yes.
They're not on their own. You may be at home alone with the kids when you don't have like another teacher there in the classroom to help you, but there are resources out there that you can use, that you can draw on, that you can build from, that you don't have to start from scratch. This isn't like dumping the Legos on the floor and saying, make the castle without any guide. There are people out there that can say, hey, here's how you get past this step. And here's how you put this together. And this is one way you can do this. And you can draw from all those resources, which are invaluable.
Yeah, you really don't have to be a pioneer. Like it can feel like you're trying to figure it out on your own because it's all new and you don't know what any of the options are. And so that takes a little bit of time. Hey, good job, Scott.
I did
Your
well in
teacher
French.
would be so proud.
My teacher didn't agree with you, Andy. she really didn't. That's all I know. 2 years of French and I can say hello. So that's about it. Debbie Blair says, I may have missed it, but do your kids participate in any school extracurricular activities? We have had a variety of extracurricular activities that our kids participated in. I think musically is probably the most. I don't know what it is. I'm not super athletic myself, but our kids haven't wanted to participate in those sports. There are options that are available if they did. Yeah. But we have some other ways to integrate them socially in other networks that weren't public school. But musically, we couldn't teach band, right? I'm not a band teacher. I struggle even playing the guitar, let alone teaching music.
You're good at the guitar, but you need a lot of people
to teach it.
To have a band, you just need a lot of people. And so that is where getting in groups is really helpful. Depending where you live, they have some amazing homeschool orchestras as well, which are really convenient because they take place during the day. And that's one of the advantages of homeschooling is you can get all of the extracurriculars, the piano lessons, the karate lessons, the band, everything in your school time so that evenings are free to just be family or relax or whatever you want it to be.
Yeah. So our oldest wanted to do, for example, the drums. So he played percussion. And even though he was homeschooled, we enrolled him in the band program at a public school. So he would show up basically just for that and participate in band and then be able to participate just as if he were in the class. Yeah. So he would.
That's really all we've done. We haven't done a lot with that because where we were in Utah, there was so much homeschool support that we were involved in choirs and bands and plays and
lots of plays.
Other things like that were just the homeschool community. And that is more convenient because they're not different. You just fit in better there. But also, sorry, I can't read and talk.
Sorry, I put the message
Something
on
else
the screen.
also.
I'll wait. Positively Printed Designs says, I just worry about holding her back and causing her to be behind in life.
Oh, thank you for saying that. That's such a real fear. that you feel. Okay, here's the thing. I have a child whose birthday is at the end of July, and I stressed about this so bad. We were going to public school, and I thought, do I put him in this year? Or do I hold him back? Because whatever you choose in kindergarten when they're 5 determines the rest of their life. It decides, when they're going to drive, what grade they'll drive in, what grade they're going to start dating in, what grade how old they're going to be when they go to college. This one decision seems to have all of this weight put on it. And it does still feel like that when you're dealing in homeschool, but I will say this, don't worry about that. They're going to move at different speeds. They will move in spurts, that there will be times that they go really, really fast, and then times that they slow down. And that kid that I worried so much about, he started college when he was 16, maybe 17. I don't remember. But he already has his associate's degree before he went on his service mission. So the things that seem so big when they're little, they will work themselves out. You've got a lot of time to figure it out.
And another thing is, if you're seeing signs that there's an area where she might be struggling, it may be better to be able to pull her out of a system that's trying to move her along at a set pace with everybody else. Where if she's falling behind, or she's maybe lacking a couple of those critical skills, several chapters ago, being able to stop and get that foundation back up to speed and address that will actually help her to catch up, or maybe even get ahead as well. So great question there. There's another one here that Babs brings up. My mornings are chaos with my 14-year-old. Do you want to explain how mornings go sometimes?
Mornings are chaos. Weird. Yeah.
We've never seen that. Not at all.
Oh, it's a zoo. It's fine. This is life. It's fine. But mornings can be a little chaotic. Just know that that's kind of the rhythm of how it goes. I don't know. You might not actually be saying, hey, what can I do about it? You might just be relating to the fact that we are already chaotic. Yep. We're in this together.
I would say this. There's sometimes when you're teaching, especially young children, that you're thinking, am I just talking to myself? Are they hearing what I'm saying? I know they're not looking at me. They're running around the room chasing each other, and this one's hitting the other person with a stick type thing.
It's not that bad.
It's not, but I'm using that as an example. But sometimes it can feel like that, like you're leading a circus or trying to herd cats, and you take one step forward and 3 steps back.
They definitely do not maintain eye contact.
And you're sitting there thinking, why in the world am I doing this? And is it doing any good? And then after all that, later when they're out playing, they'll come up and say, hey, and they'll recount something that you shared to them. And you realize that the whole time that you thought they were not paying attention, they were just doing what their body needed to do to be able to focus.
Yeah.
And they were listening, and they've actually adapted it, and they're incorporated in their play. They're saying, you taught me this, and now I'm going to try this and see if it works. And so I would say hang in there, and it doesn't have to look like everyone's sitting prim and proper at their desk, writing properly on a desk. For a lot of people, that's not school. That's not learning. And in that scenario, they can't learn. They're being held and caged, and they're just a bundle of energy and just.
Do you know what's so funny though? My kids will play school. Like my 2 youngest, my 7-year-old and 9-year-old, will sit around and the game that they're playing is, okay, we're going to learn math, and then we're going to have recess. And I was like, how do you know what recess is? I don't know. They've picked it up somewhere, and it's fine. They just play and have a really good time based on whatever we've done. And I had one of my kids was listening in on the older kid's book, and years later, literally years later, he said, oh, well, that was in that book. And he gives me this detailed description of it. And I thought, I wasn't even reading that to you. You were just near picking it up. And so, yeah, they're learning, they're picking up a lot of things. I don't remember what the question was there.
It was based off the chaos and how that it looks like that.
Yeah.
It's different. And I think that's one thing we accepted pretty early on, is that that our homeschool was not going to look like regular school. We don't have bells. We don't have timers that go off and say, okay, learning time's done, close your books, move on. Sometimes learning time goes well beyond what was scheduled because they're not done learning. They don't want to stop. And we want to allow them to, as they're still incorporating all that, bringing those lessons in and it's solidifying in their brain, they might want to continue, and it can. And sometimes it goes shorter than we planned as well, because it's like this, we're just not ready, or today's just not the day. There are things going on in the child's life that maybe need to be addressed first. And they just need to feel loved and welcome. And maybe they just need to talk and tell their story for a little bit, and then they can listen. So
yeah. And it is pretty common. And when I say that, I mean, like, 99% of people who start homeschooling just imitate public school. And then it doesn't take very long before they realize that this is not going to work for our family. And then you start going on a journey and saying, well, then what does work? And what is the point of education? And how can we change this and make it more effective? Our mornings are way less chaotic as a homeschool family than they were as a public school family when we had a hard stop, when we had to be either on the bus or out the door. That was much more stressful for me. Now, if we push it out a little bit and breakfast takes too long and we just didn't get it all cleaned up in time to start on time, that is less chaotic because so we're late. So what? Then we'll just be late going into lunch.
Yeah, this is the flexibility, and it takes a burden off us as parents a little bit, because we can adjust that way when needed.
Yeah.
All right, we had a couple other things we wanted to bring up.
Yeah, so there were some questions. Somebody said that they have a child who has ADHD and is a high functioning autistic. How do you teach reading and writing? I've put a little bit of thought into this. I've got 2 ideas, but by far the better idea is, I don't know. Go to HACOA's special needs conference. I'm just not an expert on special needs. So, and I think that there are probably other special needs conferences as well out there, but I know that one exists and that it's free. So I like that.
They have great resources for that. I would say you probably need to talk to somebody who understands the special needs specifically. For example, we had a family friend. We had a child who was struggling to pronounce some letters. And was just it was like he couldn't hear it. He or she, I don't even remember which child it was, but
I don't know who you're talking about.
Buchanan.
Oh,
we had a friend who's
he's a speech therapist.
He's a speech therapist, and he heard him, and he said, "Hey, I've just got a suggestion for him. Have him make this shape with his mouth when he's talking." And I'm like, really? Is that going to work? And we tried it, and it just like, boom, it worked. It's like, I would never have tried that. We're saying it sounds like this, do this, S, not f.
Yeah.
And he said, no, just have him do this. And he gave us a little example, and that one little
that was
key,
helpful.
It like unlocked the door.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I understand what my mouth needs to do now to make that sound.
Yeah.
And it got us through that. But it was helpful that way. So the experts can help.
They help a ton. I actually had a speech impediment as a child. I could not say my S's either. And my speech therapist was deaf. And so she never would say it sounds like this. She would always describe how it felt and how it should look. And so that has really helped me as well when we're working with this child, that I will say it should feel like this. Your tongue should be about this close to your teeth. And I got all that from her being an expert. So don't be afraid to incorporate experts into your life.
Tell the rest of that story.
And I can't talk? What?
What was your speech therapist?
She was deaf.
She was deaf. Did you say that already?
Yeah.
Okay. She was deaf. I didn't hear that. I was deaf.
Yeah, I didn't know she was deaf. I didn't know for a long time. Then long after I wasn't having her as my teacher anymore, that my mom told me that. And I thought, how interesting. Why would you choose that as a career? I don't know. This is the other thing that I have. Discover your child's learning style, because whether your kid has ADHD or your kid is just a kid, that learning the way that they learn really opens up a lot of different options. And there are tons and tons of examples in this. This is by, who is this by? Are you joking?
Maria Emma
Willis. And I love this. I also have a series of videos that is just on this. So if you wanted to check out those series, it's not focusing. Okay, then that is a great thing to use to just see learning in a different way, to try to figure out how to reach kids that learn differently than, not differently than you learn, but differently than you were taught. And so you might actually find that you learn in different ways as you read this book, and you're like, wow, I actually really like learning by doing things hands-on and figuring them out and taking them apart. And I didn't even know that was a possibility to learn that way, but it's way more fun and way more effective. So love this book.
Color Me Abstract is saying, homeschool today is much, much better than regular trans teaching any child. All right, this is RA rock. Thank you, Homeschool Abstract. Appreciate that. How do you choose, this is Christina here. How do you choose the right homeschooling program? Here in California, they've expressed that my child doesn't fit their program.
Oh, guess what? Isn't actually fitting. Wow. Okay.
California, first of all.
Yeah.
You have some challenges.
You need to move. Fix that.
There are some states that are more friendly to homeschooling than others.
No, California is pretty good, actually. we didn't move there because of the cost of housing, not because of homeschool.
And you're good. I was thinking for some reason, I thought California was the one that required you to have a teaching license to homeschool.
That's Washington.
That's Washington. Okay.
Yeah.
Different part, West Coast, but you should be good at that one.
Yeah, so they're pretty good. But if you are having a program, whether it's homeschooling program or public school or anything, if the program doesn't fit, or I mean, they're wording it this way, your child doesn't fit the program, just change the program. Your child's okay. Find the program that fits your child.
So Christina, if you're saying they have expressed that your child doesn't fit their program, it sounds like you might be in a co-op type situation or a private school. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, I don't really know. Who's
true,
they?
Yeah, true homeschooling, you're in control. Obviously, if you're doing a co-op thing, it's more of a group effort that helps that, and that would introduce some other parents with other opinions about your kids and what they should do.
Yeah.
But let's see. According to my education.
We're good. We are going to teach our children.
According to my education classes, most students are kinetic learners.
Yep.
Especially young kids. They learn with their body. I mean, it's you watch. You have a baby, and they learn. They're rolling around on the floor. They're picking up. They're standing up. They're feeling everything. And then as soon as they're old enough to talk, we say, "Now sit down and learn."
Right.
And it's like, what do you think they've been doing all this time up to this point? They've been using everything they're discovering about themselves to learn, and now it's supposed to turn that off and just listen.
Right.
It doesn't work. There's some kids that can do that. I would say a minority.
I was one of them. So the percentages I've heard are about 30% visual, 30% audio, and 30% kinesthetic. But I don't know if those percentages are really accurate, because how many kids are we actually allowing to show what type of learner they are? I don't know. So I don't know, but I do know that my kids do not like to be told what to do. What learning style is that? Oppositional defiant?
They question authority, for sure. And maybe that's a good thing. A lot of times kids that are defiant will look at things differently, and you can channel that the desire for them to not want to do things the regular way, to have them find and explore. They might be incredible inventors. They might want to look at a situation and say, I'm going to find a different way to do that just because I don't want to do it your way.
Yeah, that's me.
And it can actually turn into a good thing if you can steer it gently into the right direction. Yeah. Mary Murphy, welcome. Good to have you here. First time. Wonderful.
While he's looking that up, let me read something that I just came across and I loved it. This comes out of the book, The Education of James Madison, A Model for Today. And it says, one of the most encouraging developments in America today is that parents are once again taking active charge of their children's education. Whether they realize it or not, they are returning to the prevailing custom in colonial America. Now, you may hear that and think, I don't want to be a pilgrim with weird shoes and a funky hat. But the truth is, these guys understood freedom. They understood how to do hard things, and they understood the importance that education plays in that role. So choosing to educate your kids, they got that is a key factor when it comes to raising a generation of really creative, innovative, capable, problem-solving individuals. And let me take a step back and say, that's not to say that public school creates the opposite of all of those things. I'm just saying that homeschooling really feeds that ideal. If you're homeschooling in a way that allows them to really pursue their own interests in ways that works for them.
Christina gave us a little more information. Right now she's in a public school, a Horizon homeschool that said she didn't learn. It was a Horizon homeschool that said she didn't learn fast enough for them.
It's not a good fit for you.
Yeah, I would say there are schools out there that would like to cherry pick the cream of the crop for prestige. Yeah. They would like all the Rhodes Scholars to be enrolled. That is not how education works. Okay, there are kids who start off very poorly in early elementary school and then blossom later on, and there are kids that start really well and then grow tired of it. Yeah, so I think they're going to be disappointed with whoever they pick over time. I would find a different solution that way. Yeah, and you know what, Christina, you can find something that works. It can be really hard when you have a group that you feel like this group is going to carry a lot of the burden. They're making the decisions. They're choosing the books that we're going to read. They're maybe providing the teachers. It can be hard to walk away from that, whether that's public school or a co-op. But you can walk away and you can find the thing that works best for your kids, because it does exist. I am very eclectic in the way that we approach things. There's no
one thing that I do. I try lots and lots of things, and it's constantly rotating. I'm just all the time, because you know what? I think it's not even that I'm trying to do good things for my kids. I'm just bored. I do not want to spend the rest of my life going over the same things over and over again. I want to learn new things. I want to have new approaches. I want to have something to wake up for and be excited about. And so I keep moving, and my kids enjoy the motion as well.
I'm Not Here brings up a problem that a lot of people, I think, face in homeschooling.
Okay.
And that's where your kid is not interested in homeschooling.
Oh, no. Because she wants to be in school. Okay.
She wants to be with her friends, wants to have fun, or wants to, doesn't want to be different.
Yeah.
There can be a lot of reasons. What would you suggest you do with a child who isn't as keen as you are, or maybe doesn't have that same reason to homeschool that you do?
Yeah. Okay. This comes up actually a lot. Now, not just in people who start homeschooling. Sometimes you have been homeschooling for a long time, and your kids are feeling different, and they're feeling left out, and they just want to be a part of what everybody else is doing. They want to get on the bus with all of their friends. They just want to belong. And also, there can be, maybe the homeschooling techniques didn't fit very well for her either. And so she didn't enjoy the process of learning and homeschooling. So I would say you want to address both of those. By far the easier one is the homeschooling techniques, trying more field trips or trying more hands-on stuff, or maybe she's a visual learner, so having some sort of graphs or something. That's easier to do than trying to convince them that they already belong and that they're important and they don't need to do what everybody else is doing. I don't have the end-all solution to this. Some people do decide to send their kids back to public school and just let them try it for a while and see, is it what you thought it would be? To my knowledge, I've never heard of a kid who likes it. And this is brutal, but every time this has happened, the parents send their kids back to public. Their kid sticks it out for a little while and is like, this is not what I thought it was. I want to come back where I have more autonomy and I have more control over what's going on. In second grade,
they're young. That is very young to make a decision from.
I wouldn't let them make that decision.
What I would do if she's really not liking it is to find something she likes and customize. I'm not sure what just happened there.
I don't know. Something happened upstairs.
Okay, I think our kids are all right.
We hope so.
I would find a way to customize homeschool to incorporate things she does like.
Yeah.
Because, like we said, homeschool has this flexibility that allows you to really make school look like anything you want it to look like. Learning time can be in the kitchen making a cake. As you're learning about fractions, and you're helping her measure out and count and read recipes and things like that. It can look very different and still accomplish the same things. Especially, you might want to do that in an area where if she was struggling with math, you would want to make math look like a game other than math.
Yeah.
If you sit down and say, okay, it's time to do math, and then they shut down because I'm not a math person. I don't do that. I hate math.
Right.
You can instead change it and say, help me do this. We're working with this game right now. Let's get some of the shapes and colors and start building and just incorporate little bits a piece at a time. Which one do you have?
So it's the very bottom one. She's in college now. She went back to school and did very well. Okay, there you go. That's awesome. That's good. Education, it should be personalized. And if public school is the way to make it happen, then do it. That's awesome.
Yep, that is really cool. Les Post says, Thomas Edison had learning disabilities, and look what he did. We're all sitting here under light bulbs because of him.
Yeah, that's true. That learning disabilities just means you learn differently, generally, is what that means.
Let's see. My best friend homeschools kids, says Eddie. Kids wanted to participate in school-sponsored sports, but the state does not permit the kids. Had to decide between sports and homeschool.
Oh, brutal.
That's it. Eddie, what state is that in that you're in? Because we never want to move there. Sorry. That is really unfortunate. And I would say, I think it's also in a minority of states. There may be some other options if it is a statewide thing that you might find the homeschools unite to make some teams or make some clubs that do participate in activities if the schools really draw the line and say, thou shalt not pass.
Yeah. So, and this is something that maybe you don't want to start out with your first year, but you can start a group. You can say, hey, we're going to do soccer. We need kids from this age to this age. We're going to meet at the park at this time. Let's do soccer. And I have started several groups just to meet my kids' needs, and other people benefit, but I also benefit because they're bringing their kids. So, you have power there. Looks like Wisconsin's one of the good states, according to Ivan. Our state's open enrollment allows homeschool kids to be on public teams. We've seen that in a lot of places as well. We've got another one here about example, talk about why bleach and ammonia should not be used together. Do not show why they shouldn't.
Now, I love teaching science, but I like to show, instead of the stuff that can go bad and kill you, I like to show the stuff. Oh, there's a squirrel.
I know, we've got a squirrel right out there with a nut. And can I tell you, okay, totally change the subject on you. We have a bird right out here with his, with their nest, and it's got 3 little birds. And I tell you, my kids have learned so much about birds just watching them. And I'm not saying you can't do that in public school. I'm saying they don't. And this happens here. That's probably too harsh. Maybe some people do.
I was talking about going back to science. Science is awesome. And if your kids struggle with science, instead of focusing on the parts of science that are monotonous, I mean, here's the periodic table of elements, you need to memorize it type thing, you know,
right.
That's tough. But if you start showing them, you say, hey, let's order some gallium, okay, from the internet. Let's order this metal that melts in our hands at room temperature. And, you know, suddenly you've got these things that are changing properties that don't act the way they would expect. Then science can just come alive to people. And you can see, you can say, you talk about mixing ammonia and bleach. Well, let's mix a couple other chemicals and I can share them with you, and let's make hydrogen, and then let's light it on fire and see how it implodes and makes water. And there are other things you can do to really excite a child without sitting down and saying, we're now going to learn about atoms. All that will come later. You can build the fire first and then add the fuel bits that they'll have the foundation. But
yeah, and that's really true, that when your kids are younger, and I mean elementary to middle school age, it should be about the experience and the excitement and the exposure. And it's only when they get older that they need to learn a lot of the details and the harder stuff that a lot of times we try to hammer in at a young age when they don't really, you just got called out.
Yes. We love making root beer. Our kids absolutely love it. And it's a science experiment every time.
Yeah.
And we have to tell them don't inhale, because we use dry ice to do it. So there's a lot of the carbon dioxide. But my husband and my eldest son used to stand outside and watch birds and squirrels.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do, this child who's most interested in watching the birds, he has always been fascinated by animals. And there are several of my kids who couldn't care less. And so this is another great aspect of homeschooling, that this child can watch those birds and can be involved in the discovery and everything that's going on with those birds. When the ones who don't care about it don't have to, they can go do things that they're really interested in. And so that really personalization helps a lot.
Ginger wants to know, don't do it.
People die. That's what happens.
It creates a deadly gas is the problem. That's why you don't mix the cleaning chemicals when you clean the bathroom, because it can kill you. That's why I don't clean the bathroom at all. That's just precaution.
That's why. See, I did not know that was using that.
Yeah, you don't want to mix those chemicals.
We got one question that came in earlier that she asked, what do you do? What consequences are there if your kids won't play and they won't, won't play, they won't learn, they won't go into school time and do school.
So what consequences do you have for the children? Like what
do you do about it if they're not going to do math or they're not going to do reading or whatever?
Get new kids.
Oh, great. No,
there's actually a couple steps you can do. Depending on the age, the age is important here. If they're younger, obviously it's going to be easier to work with them. If they are say in junior high, and these behavioral traits have existed for many years, it's going to be harder to fix. Do you want to address the young ones or the old?
No, I do this for all ages. These are 2 of the books from Nicolene Peck, and what is great about these is she's teaching life skills, basically, in which if there's a problem in the relationship, these skills will solve it. And a lot of times we look at relationship issues and we're like, oh, we got to sit down and talk about your feelings, or maybe, I don't know how other people deal with relationship issues, but how she does it is really helpful, that she says there are a couple of skills and an awareness of what our roles are. And so these 2 skills are, I can't remember, disagreeing appropriately and accepting an instruction. So they're really simple. All she does is she says, when I give you an instruction, your job is to look at me with a calm face, voice, and body to say, okay, or may I disagree appropriately, and then go do it. That's the skill of accepting an instruction. And if your child is not accepting the instruction using that skill, then you could say, oh, stop. Remember, we're going to practice accepting the instruction. And it's not, I told you to do your math. It's, we forgot our skill. You forgot how to tie your shoes. Oh, you forgot how to clear your spot, whatever. There's a skill here that you're forgetting. And so you walk them through that skill. Look at me, calm face, voice, and body. And a lot of times when my kids are really upset, she doesn't say to do this, but I find it's very helpful. I will do an absurd one with them that they will, I will give them like a crazy instruction, either really easy or really hard, that I will say, okay, I need you to touch your nose and I need you to look at me with calm face, voice, and body, say, okay, and then do it. And good job, you did it. So that, they can do that and say, now I've correctly accepted an instruction, and that part of the interaction is correct. It's done. And now we can move on to what I'm going to do about math. Or I will make it really, really hard, and I'll say, okay, I want you to fly to the moon. And they will say, may I disagree appropriately, right? So they'll take the other option on that. When they say, I got to look at you with calm face, voice, and body, and say, either you say, okay, or you say, may I disagree appropriately? And if they ask to disagree appropriately, then that is this one. And you say, yes, you may disagree appropriately. Then they start this second script, the second skill, which is they look at you with calm face, voice, and body, and they say, I understand that you feel this way, want me to do my math, have asked me to do something, whatever. So they state your point of view first, and then they say,
want me to fly to the moon.
I understand you want me to fly to the moon, but I just burnt out my rocket. I can't fly to the moon today, whatever. So they'll say, and now here's my problem. This is what the thing is. So if it was math, they would say, Mom, I understand you want me to do math, but I hate math, or I don't understand fractions, or I have already done it 3 times this week, or whatever. And so they have an opportunity to say what their issue is with it, and they're practicing this skill, which then opens up the communication. Yes.
And it empowers them.
Yeah.
It brings them on your level, because you're communicating. It helps both their communication skills, because they're able to verbalize what is happening, and it empowers them to say, okay, my voice is being heard. I'm not just being told and pushed around and told what to do.
Yeah.
But we're making a decision, and it's based on information, and I am an important part of that, providing information to you. Because if you ask one of our children to do something and they have a legitimate reason,
right.
Mom, I would, but I've promised someone else that I would do this, and I have to keep my word, type thing. It's like, okay, I can change my decision, my order, my request to you, based on that information. And the child, once they see that in action, where they see that their voice is being heard, the rebelliousness just drops.
Goes away.
It goes away, because they're not feeling unheard. They're not feeling like this isn't fair. That part goes away, and it helps a ton.
Yeah, and once they say that, once they're like, Mom, I hate math. Now I can kind of get to the root of it. And I say, okay, what do you hate about math? Is it that it's hard to hold the pencil and write it? Or do you hate it because, I don't know. These are the two. And I've got to say that Nicolene Peck has her own YouTube channel where she has great videos. And she goes over all of these skills plus other skills. So absolutely check her out.
So the red one is London Leray Says Okay. It's by Nicolene Peck. And the purple one is Paige Takes the Stage by Nicolene Peck.
And there are 2 others as well, Accepting a No Answer and Accepting a Consequence. So those are the 4 skills that really run our relationships. And when we start having problems with those, then we'll kind of go back to those skills and we'll say, oh, let's practice that skill. Let's just make sure we're good on that skill. And then we'll deal with the math issue. So back to the math thing, if the child says, I hate it, then I'm able to kind of get into it and say, do you hate it because you're tired? Do you hate it because you don't understand it? Do you hate it because you're bored with it? Do you hate it because, why do you hate it? And then we're able to kind of get down to the brass tacks of what is the problem with math. And it may be that this is too hard for them. They don't understand it. And with math, I feel like I've already said that in this one.
Blue book. I need the other one.
The other one. But I only have 2 hands. There you go. Math. With math, one of the most effective things that I have found when it comes to kids feeling like I can't do math, math is so hard, go back to whatever skill they were really, really good at and just stay there and let them work it over and over. Khan Academy is a great place to do this. It allows them to just
K-A-H-N.
K-H-A-N.
Spelling works for me too.
It could be K-A-H-N. I'm not sure. There's an H in there. I'm not sure where. But the point is that if you will kind of go back and get to the place where they're really succeeding at math, it will increase their confidence and calm them down from this place where they feel like I hate math, and then they'll be prepared to go forward again and do much better.
Here's the first book, the red one, The Education of James Madison, A Model for Today by Mary Ellen Swanson.
That is not red.
Did I say red? The first one you read from.
Oh, that kind of red.
It looks blue to me, so I'm not sure how you see it, but thank you very much.
I'm sorry. For those of you who don't know, that is a reference to a court case that's going on and all of the super intelligent people who are testifying in it.
Yeah, it's a good one. There was one other thing I wanted to bring up. Let's see.
Sorry.
Wait.
No, go.
Okay, hold your thought.
It's gone.
Okay, this question here, I have a lot of problems with my teens acting out as opposed to just sitting down and talking with me about the problem. Maybe for teens, I can teach them, Mom, can we talk?
Sure.
I will tell you what works well for us. And
I just beat them. No, that's not it. Sorry. No, that's not it. Sorry.
Edit, undo.
delete.
Are we live? Is this thing on? No, just kidding.
Don't beat them. Don't beat your children. I'm not advocating abuse.
Well, what we do that works really well, that has helped to open those lines of communication, even with teenagers and young adults, is that with all of our children, we regularly have scheduled alone time.
Oh, that's true.
Where we bring them in and it's just their time. It's just their time to talk to us, to tell us what's happening in their day, what's important, what's big. And it's usually about once a week or maybe a little more often sometimes. But,
no. It's once every other week. I've got too many kids.
Well, but it's once a week that we do it.
Yeah. We do it every week, but I trade the kids.
We don't do it every single day, but once a week we'll sit down and it might take a couple hours to go through a couple kids, to just have them sit down and tell us what's big and what they're excited about and what they're learning about and let them talk until they've expressed things. And once they feel like they're heard, they'll listen.
Yeah, but I usually don't talk at them during alone time. The point of alone time is not to accomplish anything other than just nurture that relationship. So I just mostly listen. We play games. They talk about what they're interested in. And that probably really does help a lot.
It does. And it's what we've seen in the older kids as we've done this is when they have something that comes up in their life that's big and maybe they don't know how to handle or they've got an issue, something that's going on, they'll come to us. They'll come to you. I'm like, shh, I'm live. Hang on. But that helps.
True.
That helps a ton.
Yeah, that's true. I think I was going to say the other thing with math, if your kids are not doing assignments, reorienting the idea of education instead of saying, I'm educating you, to say education is the goal and we are going toward that together. And so if we're getting bumpy on this road heading toward, thank you, Ivan.
I'm interrupting your train of thoughts. Don't read the messages on the screen.
Okay.
If we're getting bumpy on the road.
That doesn't help. I don't remember what I was talking about. This is the worst. You guys don't get to see this on my videos because I edit it out and now I can't remember what I was saying. Oh, the education is not, I'm trying to educate you and you need to be educated. It's saying this is the goal and we're moving toward it. And if something isn't working, let's figure out what that is. Is it a relationship problem? Is it a math problem? Is it a scheduling problem? Whatever the problem is, we're going to solve it together and this is solvable and we're going to figure this out. And so just kind of saying, we are working on this together. I'm not against you. I'm all for you. And I want you to have this great education that's going to open doors, not only in your immediate future, but forever, because you're going to learn how great learning is. So that helps.
Jackie, thanks for being here.
Yes.
Appreciate you.
We should leave too. We've been here for a really long time.
Hang on, we've got a couple more questions.
Okay.
Okay, Eddie says, she just points out, I love that Mrs. Homeschool Ground Zero.
It's KH, okay.
Signed the letters while trying to figure out how to spell spelling on Khan Academy. Yes, she does a little bit of sign language. We, as far as languages go, we have both English and American and British sign language spoken in the house. Just not fluently, but
no.
We did sign language with our kids
when they're babies.
When they're babies. So just the important stuff, just like change, more, food.
Give me now.
Yeah.
Me.
Give me now. Feed me. All that. No, we taught them some of the basics, and it was amazing how young.
So young.
Like just a few months old type. The kids would start picking up on signs. 6 months, I'm thinking, was about the soonest you could recognize a sign. Yeah,
they picked up on it pretty quick, way before they started speaking. We did use that with my high schooler right now. He learned sign language. He learned it better than I did. I learned a little bit with him, but he definitely enjoyed it more than me. And that was a foreign language. So you can absolutely do that. How do you approach different religions? They banned religion in our public schools here a few years ago. They banned it? Time to move.
No. Moving is the answer to all your problems. Alaska is where you want to live. Homeschool. It has absolutely zero regulations or oversight. No, the downside is there are bears.
Yeah, and it's cold. It's really cold there, and you also need a boat to get to your house.
There are some great books that teach just an overview of religions of the world that you can pick up on and tie it in through history, tie it in through geography as you're studying to bring in histories, because there are some religions that are have a great deal of history in certain areas of the world, and you can bring those things together and learn about it that way. Also, most of the religions have religious books that you can, if they want to study further in that, you can incorporate that and really learn about what their belief systems are.
Yeah, we've read from the Quran, and I'm trying to think. We read a lot of the classics, but I wait to read those until they're very firmly grounded in our religion. I need them to understand what we believe before I try to get them to understand what other people believe. But I do think that it is very important to understand what other people believe once they're grounded in ours. And then I think, man, it's very fascinating to understand Hindus. It's very fascinating to understand all the different religions and their different takes on how things go and how many things are similar.
Tolerance is super important.
Oh,
Positively, I can't read your name. Positively Print Designs. Sorry, Printed Designs. Teaching kids respect is important.
Yeah.
And it's something that's lost a lot in our society today. It seems like nowadays, every time on the news, you've got kids that are just punching people for no reason and stealing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of disregard and just people don't care for everyone else or respect them. So teaching them just to be tolerant is a huge plus. So that's, the society needs that.
Yeah, and I think I would take it even beyond that. Tolerance is kind of like the bottom level. I think we should teach them to love other people, to go out of their way to serve people of different denominations, to really help people out. Moving is good. Just don't buy your house without your better half knowing about it. Oh, it sounds like some things have been confessed online.
Isn't our house beautiful? Don't we love it? Okay, so that might have been me. That maybe one time, my one mistake.
We've moved once, guys.
I've lost that privilege. I didn't get to choose our next house.
Yeah, and you know what? Moving is not always the answer, because you can't move every time that things don't go your way. But I think that you can impact the world around you to make it better where you do live. Thank you both. I feel so much better knowing there are other parents out there in my situation. Yeah, me too. I love hearing about other people struggling, right? I love hearing about other parents who are giving it their all and it's just not working. I'm like, oh good, it's not just me. But I also love hearing about people's successes and that we're just slogging together and we're trying and we're figuring it out. And sometimes we're working with public schools, sometimes we work with co-ops, sometimes we're just alone, sometimes our kids are amazing, sometimes we really struggle with it. Whatever, just knowing that there are a lot of people working on that. It is one of the hardest parts of homeschooling. You feel isolated, but it's also, you kind of have to be isolated somewhat to homeschool.
I would say if you're looking at your homeschool, your experience, whatever's happening in your home, don't go to Pinterest to see how other people are homeschooling, okay? Because that doesn't exist. Nobody has the picture perfect. I mean, it looks like we have a nice decoration up here. If I were to drag my fingers across the dust,
no.
Okay, there's like Legos and stuff pushed to the back. It looks good on the surface, but really homeschool is a little bit cluttered. It's a little bit of a mess. It's a little bit crazy. And I think that's important to have that, and that's how it works. So don't think that because you're not having the Pinterest version of homeschool that you're not succeeding, because you are. You're probably doing a much better job than you think you are.
Yeah, I think most of us, because here's why I think that is. Not that it's like, oh, you're just judging yourself harshly, but I think that we just don't see the positive impact of what we're doing for years. And so when we finally see that impact, we're like, oh, I wish I could go back in time and tell myself, hey, this is working, and they're actually listening, and they're actually picking up on all of these skills, and it's going to work out. But you can't go back in time. So I just feel like I want to tell people that I'm like, I've been doing this for a really long time, and I'm telling you, it is working. You see the results years later, but these little things that you do, the time, alone time, and that's probably one of the more effective things that we do. But also putting the kids' relationship before we put the education, that's really important. And the little things that we do consistently, reading books, field trips, those kind of things that feel like, man, is this even working? And they're not even paying attention. Man, they work. Yes, they work. They are going to create kids who are creative, who are innovative, who are capable of not only solving problems, but creating a better place for themselves and other people. It's working. You're doing a better job, not because, you're doing a better job because it just takes so long for those results to show up. And I'm telling you, they're going to show up.
That's one thing I can say. That's why we keep doing it, because the results are there. They do happen, and it takes time for it to see it. But you'll see it. I think the first time you'll see it is from other people when they say, "Wow, your kid's really good at that. Like, how did you get him to be a public speaker?" And it's like, well, we never taught him public speaking. We just have him present.
We have a big family. They talk
for 2 minutes at the dinner table what he learned during the day.
Yeah.
And suddenly when he's asked to present something in public, he can stand up and just do it without being stressed about it, not having to write it down. He can make eye contact with everybody. So you'll see that from other people, I think, really, that validate you as you go on.
I get a lot of people who say, why are your kids so confident? Your kids are just really, really just over the moon. They don't care what anybody else thinks. They're just going to go try things and super confident in it. And I think, I don't know. Why are they like that? And I think it's because they don't get grades here. We just try things because it's fun and it's interesting. And that is a natural result of learning because it's fun to learn instead of learning because it's an obligation. And so that is effective and it really works. And we don't always see it until somebody else points it out and says, well, your kid, I've had people say, your kid is so respectful. In class, they sit so still. And I think, I didn't know, they don't sit still for me. I think,
You've got the wrong parent. Yeah, that's not our kid, right?
Yeah, that's possible. But yeah, they do better in public than they do not in public. That happens.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. If your question for some reason was not answered, or if you have one that you think of later, please go ahead and leave it in the comments. Mrs. Homeschool Ground Zero, or just Homeschool Ground Zero, I guess.
I'm just Jen.
Jen will follow your comments. She does like to reply. She'll try to help you any way that she can. So if you think of something 10 minutes from now after we go off the air, it's not too late. We will continue to do these as well as questions.
I don't know. Like, I would really love to, but the reason that we can do it right now is because his court cases are just done on Thursdays. So he has a block of time. I'd love to do this, but I'm telling you, after 3, I'm done on the energy. And I don't know.
We're at 4. I'm out of lemonade, pink lemonade, for that matter. Oh, I've got one more swallow.
It was good. He was complaining on pink lemonade the other day. I was like, I love pink lemonade.
It's not bad.
It's really good.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you being here. We will do this some other time.
Maybe.
I don't know when, but appreciate all of you. Thank you. Appreciate your support.
You're awesome.
Keep it up.
You guys, what you do is so important. It's like, you can choose to public school. You can choose to homeschool using a co-op or on your own. You can choose to have a private school, whatever. But because you are engaged in your kids' lives, because you care and come to things like this and you're going to adjust your behavior, you're making a huge difference. It's just so much more impactful than I think anybody realizes when we show up and we just keep trying. So, you know how you guys were saying earlier, like, it's so nice to know we're not alone. That's what I feel. Like, keep that up, keep going, because that strengthens me. It's making just such huge impact, ripple effects to the whole world. It's just really, really powerful. So keep it up. You're doing amazing.
And you're doing a better job than you think you are.
Yes, that's true.
We'll see you guys.
See ya.
Bye-bye.